was cleaning up around this hot tub build that I'm working on, and I thought I should make some sawhorses with the scrap. And then I thought, well, I should make a video making sawhorses because maybe other people don't know how to make these sawhorses. And then I thought, well, maybe I should make some plans for these sawhorses. So I'm gonna build these sawhorses. They're like the simplest things. They're super strong. They can hold a tractor. You basically need two 8-foot 2x6s and probably depends on how tall you want them, but probably 4 2x4s and some 2.5 3-inch screws. So you can knock them together, and they're not as fancy as my fine woodworking sawhorses, which I'm still working on. But you know, if you need to support some rough materials, this is what you got. All right, let's do it. So these really can be any length, but I got enough wood to make 2 sawhorses if I pick about 30 inches for the length of the top part. And so, you know, you can use whatever. You can make these shorter, you can make them longer, but I can get 4 pieces out of this scrap at 30 inches. I'll mark these at 30. And also 60 and about 3/30 seconds to account for the blade thickness. You know, I could also mark them individually, but at the same time, the accuracy is not critical for these parts. I also marked 2 2x4s at 30 inches, and this is going to be the web or the eye part of the I-beam, not the crosses. So for the lower flange, we're going to set our table saw to 15 degrees. And make sure to raise the blade so that it cuts through the whole board. And we're going to run one side as close as we can to the edge, and then we'll set up our fence to more precisely run the other side. So for this next cut, we want to go just a little bit over 4 3/4 of an inch on the long edge. So this is going to hit up the fence on here, and we want the line to intersect just over 4 3/4. I think it's 4.77. And that'll make a trapezoid. An easy way to do that is to mark your line at your top dimension and then just sneak up on the cut, moving your fence over until you kiss that left side of the line, and then you're dialed in. Now that we got our webs, our top flanges and our lower flanges cut to length and mitered, we'll move on to the legs. And because this is all cutoffs and scraps, I'm just going to reference the plans and figure out which leg length fits with all the legs I have. Obviously I need 8 legs for 2 sawhorses, so I'll just pick a length and then get those ready for cutting. So to get a 24-inch work height on the top of the sawhorse, with the angles, the main dimension on each of these legs is going to be 23.5. And all of these are now longer than that. So I'm going to cut the first compound miter and then make the measurements for the second one, and then we'll be all ready to have a set of legs. I wanted to make these sawhorses pretty easy to configure with these compound angled legs. So you're going to want to set your horizontal miter to 15 degrees, and that's a notch on most miter saws. And then you're going to want to set your vertical miter to 7 degrees. And because that's more the splay, it's not super critical that it is dead on 7, as long as they're all consistent. There's 7. So I have the miter set this way and the vertical miter set this way. So I'm going to be cutting these actually horizontal, or vertical, versus down like this. And that's just going to make it easier because then we can use the 15 degree on this notch versus having to set it accurately on the vertical miter. If your pieces are a little over long like all this scrap is, then you don't have to be super precise at this end piece. You just get it close enough that you can cut the angle. So I've cut all the compound miters on one end of the legs, and now I'm measuring for the other compound miter. This measurement for a 24-inch tall top of sawhorse is going to be 23.5 inches, and there's other heights in the plans, but it doesn't really matter as long as it's all consistent. And so I'm actually, it's hard to see, but in the plans I'm measuring off of this corner, which is sort of the reference corner at this compound miter. So as long as I keep my tape measure hooked on that corner, each one is going to be basically the same. I'm going to bring a line across the whole top of the board with the triangle. This is a good time to do a gut check. We want these to be parallel, which means we're going to have an angle here. And then we want these to be parallel, which means we're going to have an angle here. Now this isn't going to be exact, but if you know your blade is going to come this way and also going to come this way, then you're going to be correct. So then as long as I get the blade to touch this edge when I cut it, we'll have 8 equal legs. I haven't changed the setup of the miter saw. I'm just moving the board over, and this angle is going to stay parallel with the other side, and same with this one. And I'm lining the shadow line right up to where it touches the mark, and as long as I do the same thing each time, all the legs are going to be the same length. Here's the leg with the compound angle. You'll notice it's going to sit splayed out and out from the side of the sawhorse. So let's cut the rest of them. Okay, we got all our legs compound mitered. We have all these cut to size. So now it's time for assembly. And what's going to make this really easy is if I mark a center line down the end of each board. That way all I need to do is line up the center lines And when they're aligned on both sides, then I can just attach screws. If you want to add a chalk line down the length for screw alignment, totally, that's up to you. Because these are a little over 4.75, I'll go half of 4.75, which is 2 3/8, then flip it, and then I'll have 2 marks that are basically around the center, and that'll give me a sufficient center line. 2 3/8, flip, 2 3/8. Yeah, hard to see, but there's 2 marks right here, and that's gonna be good enough for government work. And another way to speed this up, line up your pieces. Just continue that line. This is not, these are sawhorses, not rocket science here. To assemble these, I'm just going to use 2.5 inch construction screws. I'm not gonna go crazy. Figure out which side you want face up on your sawhorse. Obviously not this one. This one will be fine. And then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna make it really easy on ourselves by putting 1 screw on each side of the center. Just start it. Line up one of our webs underneath, get those marks lined up. And then drive these screws home. I like to sink them really far below the surface. That way I can throw a planer or power planer across here to clean up the top. I won't have to worry about nicking it. And then 1 screw in the middle. And if you just sight down, you don't have to put a chalk line or anything. Right, now that we got the tops on, we're gonna do the bottoms. You want your smaller end of your trapezoid to be facing down in this situation. Just do the same thing. Line up those center lines. Throw some screws in there. All right, it's leg time. So what's cool about these legs is you just flip them around different ways to get them to fit right. So this, obviously you don't want that, and that won't work. So this one, simply flip it like that. And I'm gonna line it up so that this edge sits about right there, and that these angles are flat. So we're gonna put 2 screws in here and 1 screw down from the top, I think. All right, before I fix the tops of the legs here, I just want to sit it on the deck and make sure that it's not, you know, one leg isn't longer than the other, and that it doesn't rock. So it's not moving anywhere here. So there's sometimes a little bit of space between these here. So if you put in your screws here, it's going to draw these legs apart. So you don't want to, you basically just don't want them to splay out. You're not trying to draw everything close, because the strength comes from everything pushing down through this leg. You know, you just want to hold them in place, basically. All right, one down, one more to go. Okay, 2 sawhorses finished, and they're pretty strong. I can stand on them, but let's test it, see how much they can take.